I'm Elizabeth Allison. I'm the founder and chair of the program in Ecology, Spirituality, and Religion, and I'm really grateful to President Wexler for allowing that program to be created here at CIIS and encouraging it to happen, to creating the room for it. And then, which then allows this wonderful community to assemble each year for the past 3 springs. I'm really thrilled about this content around Thomas Berry today. I think it's more timely than ever in the current state of the world to draw on the inspiration that Thomas Berry offers. And I'm not going to really dwell on that because we have many, many experts who worked with Thomas Berry personally who will really share their insights about his work. But as we begin, I want to recognize and acknowledge that we're on land originally cared for by the Ramaytush Ohlone people. They were the original people of the San Francisco Peninsula. And so I think it's not only important to recognize the original people of the land that we're on as we're thinking about how to care for the earth, but also to, in relation to Thomas Berry, he was inspired by indigenous wisdom as well as by Asian traditions and as well as by the Western tradition. Mary Evelyn writes that he had a whole room in the Riverdale Center for the study of religion devoted to the Native people, voluminous tomes on the Native people of North America. So I was curious, who were the Native people here? I didn't know this, actually. I don't know if you all knew this or not. But the Ramaytush Ohlone were the original people of San Francisco Peninsula. When the Spanish arrived here in 1769, there were estimated to be 10,000 to 17,000 Ohlone in the area. But the Ramaytush were only about 1,400 people living here on the San Francisco Peninsula in 11 tribelets. And one of those, what they call tribelets, was the Yelamu, who lived here in San Francisco proper, what we now understand as San Francisco. And it's believed that the population at that time in this area that's now San Francisco City was between 160 and 300 people. So that's like twice the number of people in this room, roughly. And if you think about the density of the city now, it's maybe not even a whole apartment building, right? So you could walk across this what we now consider to be the city and maybe not encounter anyone. It was quite empty, according to the anthropologists. And the Yelamu here in San Francisco were 3 semi-sedentary groups that were all related, but they were different family groups. The group that would have been closest to where we are now migrated seasonally along Mission Creek from their winter village that was near what's now Oracle or AT&T Park to a summer village near Mission Dolores. And what I learned is that most of these, all of these Native groups preferred to be on the bay side of the San Francisco Peninsula because it was warmer and less windy and calmer. So that's where more of the villages have been found. But if you think about them migrating seasonally along Mission Creek over to Mission Dolores, which is about a mile from here, it's not very far, they would have been going kind of right through this area where we are now. And in fact, the oldest skeleton discovered in San Francisco was 5,000-year-old remains of a woman that was discovered during the excavation for the Civic Center BART station. So again, really close by. Some of you may have come through Civic Center BART as I do every day. That's where they found the oldest person. So we're on land that's been inhabited by people for a really long time. They were horribly exterminated by the Spanish. And there are a few descendants remaining. If you want to read more about the Ramaytush Ohlone, there's a webpage. That's where I'm taking a lot of this information. So there's a web page about the history. Ramaytush is spelled Ramatush Ohlone. So it's understood that the Ohlone inhabited this area for at least 4,000 years, relatively peacefully, relatively sustainably in these different tribes. There was also a shell mound discovered at what's now Market and 5th Street, which is now a huge shopping center, but again, not too far away. That was one of the largest archaeological sites discovered in this area. So I just want us to sort of sink into that history of this area, that it was cared for by the native inhabitants for thousands of years before the Spanish settlers came. The Yelamu valued interdependence, respect for the natural world, moving with the seasons. Of course, they had to migrate around the San Francisco Peninsula seasonally to gather and hunt their food. They weren't agriculturalists, they were hunters and gatherers. They knew about medicinal plants. And these practices allowed them to live here in this not especially habitable place for a really long time. So as we draw on the wisdom of Thomas Berry, I think we can also imaginatively try to connect back to these original people of this place that are really like this place, this area in Mission south of Market. They were here, and so we can look back and learn about Native people of this land, learn about Native wisdom, and also look forward with the insights of Thomas Berry, who, as I know you all know, advocated the transition to becoming mutually enhancing members of the Earth community. And he wanted us to live into a life-sustaining ecozoic age. So I think right now we're in this time of transition to that ecozoic age. And I think that the horrific events in New Zealand signify that transition, actually. I think that as we move into this transition, the forces opposing it will become stronger and stronger. If you read any news this morning, the terrorist in New Zealand was inspired by some of the rhetoric coming out of the United States right now. And so we see these forces that oppose a transition to a life-sustaining society. They oppose a transition to a society that includes everyone and all beings, and seek to maintain the hegemony of a few. And so we know that times of transition are difficult, they're fraught, they're filled with anxiety, and we need a story to pull us forward, to guide us forward. And that's one of the gifts that Thomas Berry offers us. He knew that we needed to live into a new story. And Brian Swim offered the universe story as an idea that we can live into. So I think I just want to have that thought with us today, that we're in this time of transition. And transitions can be, as I said, anxiety-provoking, challenging, fraught, filled with tension. And we need to look for inspiration, look for vision and ideas. And Thomas Berry offers us a vision, an inspiration, a way to live into a new story as we hopefully move forward. So I'm really delighted that you're here today. I hope you meet new friends and colleagues and partners in your work. I hope that this event can help sustain you and inspire you and move forward in your work, even as we are in this time of challenging transition. And right now, the students are gathering outside of Speaker Pelosi's office for their climate strike. So I thought we sent our energy to New Zealand, but let's send some real positive, encouraging, strengthening energy over to the students. And if there's anyone here under 18, you need to go over to Speaker Pelosi's office. If I weren't here, I'd actually be taking my daughter over there today, but I needed to be here with you all. So why don't we just take a moment and really send some strength and positive energy over to them.